Hello and welcome back to part 13 of getting Wagoneer Dana 44s under my Jeep Cherokee XJ. There are several things that are going to happen in this episode. One of them will be changing my gas tank straps. Since I start taking apart the rear end of my Jeep, I might as well go ahead and change the gas tank straps since they are right there. Another issue is this beautiful rust hole in my Unibody frame rail, which has probably been developing for a couple years. First things first is I gotta remove those plastic milk jugs, which cover up these lovely bottle panels, which also have rust in them on both sides. First thing after that, or next thing I should say, is removing the rear bumper, which because Chrysler, the bolt is behind the bumper in here, which you can't get to without putting a couple of wrenches together. But after, struggling with that for probably way longer than I should have, bumper comes off. With the bumper removed, the next thing I went ahead and did is drop my exhaust. Now, because I'm cool, the rear part of my exhaust here was held in with a piece of clothes hanger bent around the exhaust, and the stock exhaust hanger that attaches to the unibody frame rail had a hole drilled in it, so I could feed the clothespin or clothes hanger around and twist it together like like you would with a twisty tie or metal wire or whatnot. So that was easy to just clip off and remove. The bolts under the floor of the Jeep, where I am now, were not seized, luckily, but I took a little PV blaster to loosen up. And with that, I could go ahead and undo the clamp that holds the very, very front of that tailpipe, essentially, to where the catalytic converter is. Allow me to just pull everything all out at once. Then up was, in order to get to that unibody frame rail, of course I have to get rid of the trailer hitch. So that is going to be done with an impact.
So things got a little bit more complicated. The rot I'm going to have to cut out to back here, and this part here is actually the nut strip that gets fed in the back up under here. So no matter what, I'm going to have to get a new one of those. I'm going to have to do more unibody frame rail repair than I was hoping, but I was expecting the best. But unfortunately, because the weld nut is rotted, this bolt on both sides is just spinning. So that means I have to remove this bracket. Now, this bracket is held on with 4 bolts like this, with the weld nut on the other side, which they're actually not too bad. I mean, I've had to work them back and forth to get them to loosen up, but I've been able to get 2 out of the 8 undone, so I'm hoping for the best, but of course expecting the worst. So that's what I'm doing right now. Well, this just gets fun and funner. Those 2 bolts on this side got rounded off, and this one on this side got rounded off. And because, again, Chrysler likes to have a sense of humor in a bad way, one of these bolts, for whatever reason, was a 14, not a 15. The rest are 15. All of a sudden in the middle, there was a 14. Luckily, I found that out before I rounded it off. As you might have guessed, those last bolts just were not going to come out. So I had to go ahead and drill them, which is what you're watching now. It's fairly, I guess you could say, standard at this point, once the bolt is seized in there, to just drill it out and then grind the head off. So that's what I did, or am doing. And then with that done, I used my air hammer to just essentially cut the head of the bolt off, which worked out nicely.
with those brackets out of the way, after drilling out those bolt heads and then using my air hammer to cut the head of the bolt off, I then noticed that these last two bolts holding the trailer hitch in, it wasn't that the carriage bolt was spinning inside of a bracket or there's a nut strip that was broken. It was actually, there was little plates and a normal bolt that goes all the way down through, which I completely forgot about that since it's been several years since that trailer hitch has been installed. So I just went ahead, threw a regular wrench on there and then used my air wrench and did it.
So now that the trailer hitch is down and out of the way, you can get a better look at what's going on down here. Turns out, and I remember this now, is that I didn't actually have nut strips that came on the Jeep factory if they had a factory tow hitch. So I had to use the hitch supplied carriage bolt holder. This isn't a carriage bolt one, but there's little plates they had to feed down under each one of these bolts that held the carriage bolt in. I remember now. So actually I might be able to get away without having to get new nut strips because I never had any anyways. But again, a good look at what's going on down here. This needs to get all cut out, and I have new metal to weld in there. Somebody made a rat's nest in there. It's all up in there. I'll have to take that out. But this side is in decent shape. I should be able to get away. I should be able to get away with just cleaning her up, putting some undercoating and stuff on there, and we'll be good. So I have the area I like to cut marked. And since the gas tank is right there, I also have that protected from sparks. So let's commence the cutting. But I have everything cut out. I cleaned it out. There was actually a mouse nest in there. It was all the way back here somewhere. So I cleaned that all out. Cleaned the inside of the unibody framer all out. Painted it. And now it's time to make a patch. Catch you on the flip side. So another problem that I have on this Jeep, which is, I mean, it's not really that serious yet, but it will be one day, is this strap has a crack in it that starts about here and goes to here. So I have to fix that. In order to do that, it means I'm going to end up cutting that post and cutting that post and dropping the gas tank a little bit so I could remove where it hooks there. And I have some undercoating and some paint and stuff I'm going to clean up under there so the floor stays nice and solid. And these are the new gas tank straps. They're from Crown Automotive. They're like $15 or something a piece. No, actually they're 17 something a piece. They're nice. They're just like the stock ones. They got the nice rubber on them. And there's no rust. So this here is the gas tank strap that I just changed, or took down, and it's a good thing I did because it was gonna break. There's where the strap went down along the gas tank. And here is the little end of the thing that I cut off. So now what I'm going to do is lower the gas tank a little bit, clean up a couple spots in the floor that have some surface rust on them. I've checked, it's all solid in the spots that I could see anyways. I'll fetch you on the flip side once I'll probably wait till I have this side cut down. So I wasn't really able to do exactly what I wanted to. What I wanted to do was remove one gas tank strap, lower the tank a few inches so I could get paint and undercoating on the bottom of the floor above the gas tank. Well, basically that couldn't happen because I would have to remove the other gas tank strap as well. Because when I tried to lower the jack here, that gas tank strap, believe it or not, held the entire gas tank. So I was like, alright. So I put the gas tank back up and I'm just cleaning what I could around where the gas tank strap mounts there and up on the other side. And usually what I would be doing is I would use, Rust-Oleum Rusty Metal Primer, and then I would put high performance enamel on top of it. Well, I decided to try something a little bit different. I still used Rusty Metal Primer, but instead of high performance enamel for the underside of the Jeep, I decided to go with Rust-Oleum undercoating. and it actually works really well. It's kind of rubberized because it's more of a sort of like a undercoating bed liner type deal, but it has really nice coverage, and it seals cracks and it seals seams and stuff like that. And I mean, this is only one coat, so I actually really like the way that the undercoating came out. And for the underside of the vehicle is probably what I'll use for anything that I end up needing to paint. And so that's that progress. So basically I'm only going to be able to cover or clean up areas around the edges of the tank and stuff like that, but should be good enough. The floor is, as far as I can tell, is solid up under the tank. When I did Herculiner on the floor of the back of the Jeep, there wasn't like there was any soft spots or anything like that I noticed. So I'll probably throw another light coat of the Rust-Oleum undercoating on there and call it good. It has really good coverage. I might not even bother putting another coat on it. Like, it has really, really good coverage just with the one coat. But I'll probably do some touch-up spots and then let it dry and put one gas tank strap on and then repeat the process on the other side. Got the gas tank straps all in there. Pretty simple. The longest part and the most annoying part was actually just waiting for the undercoating to dry up enough so I can feed the straps in there through without damaging that coating. But next up is closing up that hole. I already have the battery disconnected, got the alternator disconnected. I made my patches last week. It's going to be a two-part patch, but it's time. This is just a quick video of me welding in one of the patches. Originally I had made just two patches. They were just two parts of the patch, each with a 90-degree bend to get around the unibody frame rail. Since the metal that I was using is a little bit thicker, because the unibody frame rail is 16th inch thick, so I went out and bought 16th inch thick sheet metal, which is 16 gauge if you didn't know. I couldn't get the 90-degree bend in, so I had to cut where the 90-degree bend would be and just make basically another weld that where the 90-degree bend would normally be. Usually when I make floor patches, that metal is somewhere between a 32nd and 16th inch metal, so that's much easier to bend and, work around. So this was just a minor issue. I had to just cut and then make another weld, but it worked out fine in the end. The job came out perfect, actually. So here's a final check-in on this rust repair job on my unibody frame rail for this Jeep. I had sealed up all the seams with seam sealer, and then I went and did the Rust-Oleum undercoating on all the areas. Along with under here on both sides. The other side was in much better shape, so it was a lot easier. But that's that. So the next thing I'm going to do is take this Eastwood internal frame coating and coat the inside of my unibody frame from back here up to about up here somewhere, as far as I can reach with this provided tube. Now some might say this is overkill, some might say I'm crazy because this is pretty expensive. This stuff's like $20 a can, but to me it's worth it to prevent further rusting from the inside out of both unibody frame rails. But it's pretty simple. Basically, you of course shake the can, remove the normal spray nozzle that comes on cans, and pop on this tube. Now you probably can't see it, but there's a brass nozzle on the end that fans the spray out like this, so when your tube is inside your frame, it's fanning out, covering all sides. And essentially what this is it's considered a rust encapsulator. So it encapsulates all the rust molecules and prevents it from rusting any further. Again, I'm not a chemist, but I've did some research and a lot of people do like it, and from what I've seen, it looks like it does a pretty good job of what it's supposed to do. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. So as you can see, when you do the internal chassis coating, you'll know that you've got it good when it starts to come out all the bolt holes like that. And up there. And all along this side. So, my next big project, well not big project, but the next phase of the big project is doing a cut and fold on these rear quarter panels. Now if you're wondering, like I would be if I was watching this, this actually covers a rust hole. So, what I'm going to do is normally on a normal cut and fold, you would cut along the bottom and then cut out your panels in here and the same on the back, and then fold the inside panel that way and then fold this over the top of it. I'm going to do it a little bit differently because I have rust here on both sides, so you'll see that in the next part of getting Dana 44s out of a Wagoneer under a Jeep XJ. And since the last update, I had got the front axle back from the welder. He did a good job welding it. As it turns out, the zinc, the cold zinc, whatever, weld-through primer that I put on there, he actually doesn't like. He prefers the copper one. So there's two types of weld-through primer. There's a zinc that I had put on there, and there's copper. In the research I've done, it basically comes down to personal preference. Some people like the zinc because it is a little bit cheaper, but the general consensus is that the zinc coating creates more spatter and makes for a more dirty weld. You'll still get a good weld through it, but most people say that the zinc ends up being dirtier. You have more spatter and stuff like that. So he likes the copper stuff, but it basically comes down to personal preference. But I did get the axle back, trusses on there, ready to go for paint and going under the Jeep.